as I'm sure all of you were listening till now. It is my great pleasure to have with us Dr. Ashwin J. Balinga, who is a PhD in B2B marketing from IIT Madras, MTech in engineering management from MIT, Manipal, and BE in mechanical engineering from NIE Mysore. He has ranked first and has been a gold medalist in both his bachelor's and master's degree. He's worked with various companies like Wellspun, and various others. He has been a teaching assistant in the Department of Humanities and Management during his masters. He has published in various journals of business research, Journal of Business and Industrial Marketing, and International Journal of Mineral Processing. His research interests include B2B marketing services in specific. And apart from research, he is also a fitness enthusiast. He runs 6 kilometers almost regularly and has completed 3 half marathons and loves cycling long distance. So for a person so young as Dr. Ashwin, it's really quite an impressive biography, I will say. And Ashwin, on behalf of Amity School of Business, all my students and director, it is my utmost pleasure that you accepted our invite at such a short notice and were ready to deliver insights to our students. I hope we can make the best out of it.
Yeah,
Yes, Ashwin, so you can
thanks for
start.
the thanks for the wonderful introduction, madam. And I mean expectations from the lecture, or I mean just a talk or something from the students. If you could make it kind of interactive, it would have been better. Feel free to
So,
unmute yourself
yes,
and ask. Or any expectations in specific in general, anybody has to know about what is B2B or something like that. Any expectations from this next 30-40 minutes talk?
students, come on, answer. This question is to you, not to me. I am just a facilitator.
Yeah, so feel free to unmute yourself and ask, because when I was also a student, I was also a bit hesitant to ask questions. But believe me, most of you after your bachelor's might have some plans to pursue PhD in the future. So so this is from a researcher's perspective. This is from a person who has worked in the industry, who has done lots of research on B2B, things like that. So any expectations from this talk for the next 30-40 minutes?
I think we just expect to listen to what you have
Okay,
to say on B2B. What is
sure,
your perspective?
sure.
Somebody from the industry and academia mixed. I think
Yeah,
that is
yeah.
our
So
perspective only.
yeah. So, so my field of research, is my slides audible?
Yes, your slide is visible.
Yes, yes. Am I audible and my slide is visible, right? Correct.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, you
So,
are audible.
so the thing is, I completed my PhD recently from IIT Madras. I defended my thesis on 2nd of March, which is 13 days ago. And my research interest is primarily in B2B marketing, and there is a specific reason for that. I had worked in the industry and I had first-hand knowledge. So I wanted to research in a field where I'm kind of able to visualize what I'm actually doing. And that is why I decided to kind of do my research in B2B marketing. And predominantly, I started working on something called a service failure and recovery, which I'll kind of touch towards the end in case you are interested. Now, the first thing is, what is B2B marketing? You might have Ruchika madam could have kind of told you what it is, but there are two things when before you discuss and understand what is a B2B marketing. First, you have to understand there are two terminologies: marketplace and market space. Now, a marketplace is one which is physical in nature, where your buyers and sellers kind of meet physically, like a regular market. And there is something called as market space, which is kind of virtual in nature, which means that the buyer and the seller meets over the internet. Like for example, you buy on Amazon, so it is kind of a marketplace. So that is as simple as that. Now, what do you mean by B2C? Now, you in this market, you have something called as B2B, and you have got as B2C. Now, for example, if Amazon, you buy something from Amazon and Amazon is delivering directly to you, it is business to customer. But in B2B, the buyer is an organization. So any transaction that kind of happens between Amazon and its supplier is referred to as a B2B kind of transaction. And this is something which is very dynamic in nature and which is very, very complex. It might look very easy when you look at it on the surface, but as you go deeper, there are so many things which you have got to learn. So this is what the literature defines B2B marketing as. They say that in business marketing, the customers are organizations, and these organizations could be businesses like commercial organizations. It could be governments where you call it as B2G, and it could be other non-profit enterprises also. So these are some of the definitions, and I'll be sharing the slides so that you can be using it. Now, okay, let us try to understand the product type. So you can unmute yourself and tell me, is Dell laptop a B2B or a B2C product?
Come on,
This
students.
is, yeah, so let us
B2C.
participate so that it kind of becomes easier. Is it
Yes.
B2B, it is B2C, or is it both?
So both.
Yeah, it is both. Why is it both? Correct answer. Why is that it is both?
So
So if,
because it is
yeah,
marketed in between businesses also, because like Dell ties up with other businesses so that they can provide their
exactly,
laptops.
exactly, correct. So that means that if you are buying a Dell system for your use, if you're the person who is using it, then it is B2C. But if it is sold to organizations, even if it is sold to MIT University, it's a B2B kind of transaction. So that is how it is. That is the difference between B2B, B2C. Okay, the next one, Medimix soap, B2B, B2C.
B2C, sir.
B2C, sure.
Yes, sir.
What if big hotel chains buy tons of soap? Then what does it happen? Doesn't it become B2C, B2B as well?
So it
So it is.
becomes, sir. But then, sir, as much as, sir, I guess so, sir. Medimix is not sold to hospitals
Uh-huh.
mostly.
No,
So I don't
you
think so.
just look at this lodges, etc. So what is it? Is it an institutional buying? It is an organizational buying, or it is buying for an individual customer?
Okay, so it's a
So
B2.
so
It's
it
both.
is both B2B and B2C. Escorts tractor, again, it can be B2C, B2B. Ola cab, it could be B2C, B2B. That means you can use it for a trip for you to go. The organizations can also use it to transfer their executives. Finacle software. Finacle software is a purely B2B kind of software, which is only used for calculation and other purposes. Okay. So the Dell example, which I kind of gave you, if Dell is being used for individuals and households, it becomes B2C. If it is being used for B2B, then it can be used for businesses, institutions, and government. So this is how you have to always understand. You have to look at the entity as a whole. Now the entity is where it is going, whether it is who is the end customer. Look at who is the end customer. If it is an individual, it is B2C. If it is an organization, it becomes B2B. Is this clear, or any doubt at this stage?
I think
Any?
it's clear.
Yeah, okay. So let me give you another example. If Harpic, so again, as I mentioned earlier, the intended use determines whether the product is a consumer product or a business product. So always remember this. These are the simple questions which are asked for you in the interviews. If Harpic is used by the ultimate consumer to clean his or her house, it is a consumer product. If it is being used by a hospital or university, it is a business product, because it is the buying is on behalf of the organization. This is something which you have to keep in mind, and many of them falter in this. Okay. And now, most importantly, this is the thing, how B2B marketing is difficult. What are the major distinguishing characteristics? Now, first thing which you need to understand is, in B2B, the customer is an organization than an individual customer. This is the first and foremost point. So whenever anybody asks you, what is the primary difference between B2B and B2C, you will say that the customer is an organization than the individual customer. Next, what about the number of customers in B2B versus B2C? Where do you find many customers, whether it is in B2B or whether it is in B2C? Please unmute yourself and speak so that there would be learning for all of us. So where do you find more customers? Do you find more customers in B2B, or do you find more customers in B2C?
Harshit, Chahat,
so.
Gayatri.
More in B2C.
Yes, the customers are more in B2C. For example, if you take any brand, go to a shopping mall, you will find lots and lots of customers, but you don't have anybody, to go and buy a JCB or things like that, right? The number of customers are less, but what you see is the purchase value of a B2B is very high. The B2B purchase value, for example, you take so many cloths, the price would maximum come to 1 lakh, 2 lakh, 3 lakhs, but a B2B product, when you buy something like,
So because it is
let
mostly
us
because the lot sizes are bigger, right?
Yes. So that is the thing. And then many people are involved in decision making. What do you mean by this? So this is a very important point. So when you have to buy a mobile phone, what you do is, it is you who make the decisions, or at most you consult your friends and family. But in B2B, it is not like that. The purchase value is very high. It runs in billions of dollars. It runs in millions and billions of dollars. So that is why there is something called as a buying center. There are many people involved in this decision making. So there are different managers. Everybody's views are taken. They kind of do an analysis and then they finally make a decision whether to buy or not to buy. What happens if you buy something and if that decision is wrong, then there are consequences, which means to say that there could be dismissal also in certain cases. Third one, it is a longer and complex buying process. Mobile phone you want to buy, pretty simple. You speak to your friends or you decide, you just one click and you buy it. But that's not the case in B2B. It typically runs into months. You need something like tender, document, price bidding, etc. is there, which is not the case in kind of B2C, where promotions are there, certain discounts are given. B2B doesn't work on that. So altogether, it's a totally different business model. And then the focus is more on direct sales. Like if you look at B2C, they rely heavily on promotions, advertisements and stuff like that. But in B2B, it is more of direct sales. You have your executive, you have a key account manager. So you can note down this term, something like key account manager. You can just go back and check what does that mean. So every B2B kind of organization has a key account manager and they'll be handling accounts, and every customer's worth would be, crores of rupees. So that is why, it is all kind of very, very difficult. Second, something called as make or buy option exists. Now, what is meant by that? So what B2B kind of organizations do is that they don't make everything on their own. So okay, so let us say that I was working for Welspun Corp Limited and their product was predominantly a steel plate. And that steel plate and pipe is being used for transporting petroleum and gas underneath the ocean. Okay. Now, definitely the core competency of Welspun is in making this steel pipes and plates. And then the next question is transportation. So would Welspun have its own logistics? Answer is no, because they're not focused on that. The focus is more on making these pipes and plates. So for logistics, there are already people in place. So there is an option where you can always take the services of others. Then, you have to make that kind of assessment. Should we go ahead and, have our own logistics in place, or shall we use an existing logistics partner and continue with them? So this kind of option always exists. And there is something called as reciprocity, which is very, very common in B2B, which means that you buy from them, they buy from you. You get the point. So that is referred to as reciprocity. Please underline and underline and understand these words. These are all very, very important words. Reciprocity means, let us say there are two organizations. One organization buys from the other, another organization buys from you. For what example I'll give you is that Welspun had different kind of plants. So it was a conglomerate. Conglomerate means they're into different businesses. So they typically make pipes from steel plates. And what Welspun pipe division used to do is that they used to buy the steel plates from the steel division. I mean, the steel division used to make plates and sell it to them. And similarly, it was vice versa. They would make the pipes and give it here, and which would then be transferred. So this kind of reciprocity, not within the same organization, across also you'll see that in many cases, in most of the cases, there will be a reciprocal arrangement, etc. And then what does it mean to a B2B marketer? What is the kind of process, etc.? I'll kind of speak later. And then most importantly, there is something called as a formal contract. Now, what do you mean by formal contract? When you buy a particular product, you have something called as a warranty, which is in place, and that is something like for a year or a two or something like that. But when you are dealing with B2B, you have certain contracts which says that these are the clear rules and regulations, guidelines. It will be a thick booklet of 50-60 pages where everything will be mentioned point wise. Okay, this is what is going to be done in the event the material ruptures. These are the things which you are going to do. All these things will be in place. So the moment you give an order, these are the specifications. This is the tolerance limit. Now, if they specify in the material, so you know that whenever a product is being made, exact dimensions cannot be arrived at. So that will be certain tolerance. So they'll say that the customer says that tolerance of plus or minus 10% on the particular product is okay. So what happens is once you make a product, they'll just see it. Okay, if it is within 10%, they pass it. If it is even 11%, then the organization can always come back and say that, look, this is not within the tolerance limit, so we'll not accept it. So, these are all very, very important things there. And then buyer-seller negotiation skills are very crucial. Now, the meaning to say that it is more on, the thing is, it very, very less number of B2B, you have lesser number of alternatives than in comparison to B2C. For example, let us say that you want to buy an apparel. You have several brands. You have Van Heusen, you have Zara, you have H&M, you have Allen Solly, things like that. Whereas in B2B, you don't have many options like that. You only have a few service providers. Hardly it could be 1 to 2 or 1 to 5, something like that. You don't have much. So that is most important point. So in B2B, the availability of alternatives is less than in compared to B2C. Most important point in B2B, which madam asked me to touch upon, was customer relationships, which is very, very important in B2B. For example, in B2C, you kind of are not loyal to a particular thing. Today you buy from H&M, tomorrow you may buy from some other brand. Whereas in B2B, you tend to have a collaborative relationship. You work with your service provider. You tell them that, okay, you give the specifications, you kind of sit and try to understand from them. You co-create things together. So that is how it is different. Whereas in a consumer market, B2C, you don't co-create. You typically tend to buy everything what the customer, what the business is giving you, correct? You can't go to lifestyle and say that I want this kind of product. No, they would not do it for you. They would say that minimum it should be 15-20 pieces. They would ask you for volumes. Whereas in B2B, since the purchase value is pretty high, what you do is you have an option to co-create. Like when you do an SAP kind of installation, in organizations, what you do is that you want specifications as per your choices. SAP has some standards, but you can change it as per your sequence that you want. So that is what is meant by all these things. Okay, so the next important thing is characteristics of B2B markets. So I said that business markets are customers, which could be businesses. It could be businesses like, let us say, Reliance is buying from Welspun, or Reliance is buying from, say, Big Bazaar, something like that. It could be governments, B2G. For example, income tax portal for the government of India was designed by Infosys, if you are aware of, correct? So the transaction there is B2G. Why? So your business is Infosys, your government is income tax department. So that transaction is B2G. Now, if you have read the newspapers, you'll clearly identify that there was an issue. Now, towards the end, if you any of you can just kind of find out and just tell me what the issue was. So income tax, government wanted people to file income tax. And then Infosys was the service provider. Now, it so happened that there were lots of technical glitches. People complained a lot. They said that, look, we're not able to pay on time. Now, what happens? If the people are not able to pay on time, who is at loss? Is it Infosys at loss, or is it the government which is at loss?
Government.
So Infosys has designed a
Ashwin, I think you put
your for the government of India.
Ashwin, I think you put your camera off because maybe you have a weak network. The voice is breaking. You keep your camera off. Your voice is breaking.
Yeah. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, it's better.
Okay. So now, who is at loss? Whether it is Infosys which is at loss, or whether it is the government which was at loss. Now both are at loss. I'll tell you how. One, the customer. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Yeah. So one is that the customers, when they don't pay, the government is losing in a big manner. Correct. That is point number one. Secondly, a lot of bad mouthing also happens for Infosys. Now that is called as negative word of mouth. Now other players who are there will observe and say that, okay, we also wanted to have a similar rollout by Infosys. Now we are not going to do it. We're not going to do that because of these reasons. Now you get the point. So you have lesser number of customers. Now you make a goof up, and if you're not able to correct it very quickly, then you are inviting trouble. That is what is very, very important point to be noted. You don't fix a problem, there is a problem. Yes, problems can always exist, but if you're not able to fix it on a particular time, you're going to invite kind of trouble. So next, a single purchase by a business customer is larger than that of individual customer. Now you see the difference. Individual will buy 1 unit of a Microsoft, let us say, Office, whereas when it is an organization, they typically buy in thousands, they buy in volumes. So the product, the value, the cost is very, very high. Next, it is something called as a derived demand. Have you studied something called as derived demand? What is derived demand? These are very important terminologies. What is derived demand? Ma'am, you are on mute. Yeah.
Yes, come on, somebody answer what is derived demand. I'm sure you know it.
Yeah. So the demand for business products depends upon dash. What is derived demand?
Aditya. Yes, somebody is raising hands. Karan.
Yeah, Karan.
Sir, derived demand is a demand for a commodity or service, which is a consequence of the demand for something else.
Correct.
It's a for
Yes, yes. Yes, so the demand for B2B comes from, I mean, you go backwards and you check if there is a demand for cars, how do you get a demand for? There is a consumer demand. Now that is driving something else, correct? That is why it is called as derived kind of demand. And then relationships between business marketers tend to be close and long lasting. Now IBM has kind of relationship with the key customers and it spans decades. Now, can any of you tell me why is it essential to have relationship with the customers? Why is that I need to focus on customer relationships? Why do we focus on customer relationship? Can't I just give a good service to the customers and limit at that? Why is that I have to kind of make certain investments and think of retaining customers? Unmute yourself and speak. Let the answer be wrong, that's absolutely fine, but you know,
Yes.
take a chance, try to understand, okay, I can give a perfect service to a customer and just keep quiet, right? Why is that I need to think of customer relationships? Answer, any answer?
Tampi, you can answer this question. Yati can also answer.
Yes, Akansha, you can go ahead.
Yes, very good, Akanksha. Akanksha, you're not audible.
You can even put it in the chat box, guys. That's absolutely fine. So the question, I hope the question is kind of clear.
Yes.
Is the question clear? Why is it essential for organizations to maintain relationships?
It's such a simple question. Why is it essential for organizations to maintain relationships? You must have studied in CRM also last year. Come on, Paritosh, can you answer it?
Ma'am, am I audible now?
Yes, Akanksha.
Ma'am, one of the reason might be that just because we are offering the perfect solution right now, we might not offer the perfect solution in the future. So it's important that we communicate and maintain a sort of relationship with our customer, that even in the future, if they have a problem, it's us that they think of, not just our solution.
Okay. Now I'll tell you why you know, brands want to have that customer relationship thing. The minute you think of making a purchase, their name should flash first in your mind. You get the point, right? That is what is working for stronger brands. The minute you think of a purchase, you need to think of them. Secondly, they know that there is intense competition these days. You have to understand this particular point. Though B2B has a fewer number of customers also, fewer number of service providers also, there is intense competition these days. Now, if let us say there are 4 or 5 service providers, still there is a chance that the customer can defect or move to another service provider. So if you are kind of maintaining a relationship, you are ensuring that the customer will not leave you and go. The customer will be with you for a longer time. So these are some of the reasons as to, and thirdly, which is the most important point, whenever there are issues, whenever you are providing service, there can be issues, and these are called as service failure. I'll give you a B2C example to make you understand. How many of you have ordered from Amazon? Have many of you, everybody would have ordered from Amazon. Have you got the product right every single time?
There have been some.
Have you got the product right every single time? There could have been any issues, right? There could have been a defect in a product. There could have been a wrong mobile phone sent to you. There could have been something else. Something could have happened. Now that is called a service failure.
Incomplete
Yes.
product.
Incomplete products are there. Or see, recently what happened was I placed an order. For a mouse. My father wanted a wired mouse. And what has happened is that it was only 80 rupees or something. It was because wired mouse is obsolete these days, and they said okay, and I paid for that. And then the product never reached me in first place. But then what Amazon did is that there was a failure from their end. Now that is a service failure. They said that you are our prime customer, we value you a lot, we want you to be there. As a mistake, what we have done, we are compensating you 100 rupees for what that has happened. Now you see, these are all ways of kind of maintaining your customer relationship. The financial bonding is not something which you want, organization want, because there is a lot of spending that is involved. Customers don't want to lose you because they know that what value you bring to them, because they know that okay, once I defect and go, that is once I leave the customer and leave Amazon and go, they know that I have alternatives, but for them to get me back, it is very, very difficult. So what they want is that, okay, they know that goof ups can happen. They just want to ensure that, that experience is good. The customer experience has to be good. That, the customer should not be said, yes, there is a failure, but we have recovered the customer and he's ensuring that he's buying again. And they called me 2, 3, 5 times. They said that we are sorry for this. We are giving you this. You see why it is so important. So it is acting as a buffer against the service failure also. So even if let us say that all of us have got some faulty products from Amazon, still we buy from Amazon. Why? Because of that relationship they have maintained with us. They you very well know that even if there is a faulty product which is given to you, they will replace it. You get some kind of compensation and you can rely on them. So these are the very reasons as to why relationships are to be maintained. Is this kind of clear, or any doubts? Any doubts? So another way to differentiate marketing. So suppose if anybody asks you to differentiate between customer marketing and this thing, so this is what you have to say. So derived demand is there. Derived demand, I said, the buying process is complex. As I told you, buying process is complex in the sense there are many people involved in the decision making. One person doesn't make the decision. Concentrated customer base. You don't have many customers. You have few customers. High emphasis on technology. High levels of customization. Now, what do you mean by high levels of customization? It is called as bespoke. Bespoke in the sense every product or service is unique. Whatever is given to me and whatever product is given to somebody else is completely different. That is what is meant by kind of bespoke. And order fulfillment mechanism. They have their own kind of things in place. Now, why is that B2B marketing is to be studied? Now, it is to be studied for the following reasons. If you look at our GDP, you see that services sector contribute to almost 57%, if I'm not wrong, and in the global economy it's around 75%, of which B2B itself is contributing 50 to 60. That is the most important point. And then if you look at you students also, tomorrow you'll be joining an organizations. There's a high probability that your customers are going to be organizations. For example, you have joined Infosys. Who are you going to work for? You're not going to work for individual customer, right? You're going to fulfill a project, let us say for IRCTC. Now, for example, IRCTC, you would have used the training ticketing system. Who runs the software? It is TCS who does it. Passport Seva Kendra. Support is by TCS. So it's a B2B kind of transaction. So that is what you kind of have to kind of understand. So these are the reasons, and these are some of the significance of B2B market. In the paucity of time, I'll quickly explain organizational buying process, and then 5 minutes I'll take to explain the remaining things. When you buy in an organization, first three things are similar to, can you see the slide? Organizational buying process?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. So this process, and this process is same in B2C, and this as well. Supplier search also. Supplier search in the sense you want to buy a mobile phone, let us say. Why did you want to buy a mobile phone? You recognize there was some issue. You state everything. You write down the thing. This specification I want. These are the things. Then you do a search whether I have to buy it online, offline. Now this process is same in B2B and B2C. Now what happens post that is, in B2B there is a purchase department. So what they do is that they do a tendering process and they get these proposals. They do a supplier selection. So a few suppliers would be coming. You don't have much, but you have few. And then they tend to evaluate these particular kind of suppliers and then give a final order. So they just don't buy randomly. So people come and give their presentations, and based on that, they kind of do it. So let me give you an example. I'll send the slides to you, but because of the paucity of time, because I've been told it is okay.
We still have time. You can maybe complete the topic.
Okay, fine. So no, the students should not get bored.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
Yeah, so I don't want to make them bored, because I used to get bored when people used to do long talks. So yeah, so there are three buying situations any organizations will encounter. So first is straight rebuy. Now, what do you mean by straight rebuy? If you have to buy a stationery, let us say, are you going to go do a supplier search? Are you going to call for quotations or things like that? Answer is no. You're not going to do all that. You're going to buy it straight away, because this is not going to impact you much. The second type of buying situation is called as a modified rebuy. Now, what is meant by modified rebuy is that, let us say Crompton and Greaves makes fans, and let us say that IIT Madras wanted so many fans, and they said, okay, your fans are very good, but we want to have low regulator speed. Listen to my example very carefully. Now, the regulators Crompton and Greaves used to buy from some other supplier. Now he was not able to supply a regulator of low speed. Now they have kind of modified this I mean, they have kind of replaced the supplier with somebody else who is giving them a regulator at low speed. Now you get the point. Now in modified rebuy, there is the entire 9-step process which is in place. Whereas in straight rebuy, it is like buying stationery, buying small things which you don't have to use your mind. Then the final thing comes, which is called as new buy situation. Now, what is this new buy? Now, new buy is a situation where you're spending substantial amount. You need to buy a expensive software. You need to buy a rolling machine. You need to buy a CNC lathe. It is pretty expensive. It is not one or two. You need to buy 15, 20. Now you have to kind of, sit, think, decide, make proper evaluation, and then you have to buy it. So now if you see, the level of decision making is high. Where is the complexity more? Whether the complexity is more in new buy, modified rebuy, or straight buy? Where is the level of complexity more?
So I think
New
modified.
Modified? Why? Why not in new buy? No, modified is fine, right? Modified is I just want certain modifications.
New task is like the most complex.
New is the most complex. New is the most complex. See, you have to keep it in mind that in B2B, everything is bespoke. Bespoke ka matlab hai that whatever machines I'm making for one company, I need not make the same for other. It is all make to order. There is a difference between make to order and make to stock. Make to order means the customer will give the specifications. Yes, Paritosh, you can ask your question. The customer will give the specifications and then you kind of make the particular product. Yeah, Paritosh, please ask me your question.
Not exactly a question, but like a small addition to the past point was being spoken of. Like new task buying also includes a huge investment of money. So you need to like extra careful
Yes.
with that. So I would like to go agree with Anshuda's point on being modified buying, rebuy is much like simpler compared to new task buying.
I see. The thing is this: modified rebuy also would want you to modified rebuy would also want you to focus on more suppliers and kind of do an evaluation criteria. But what happens is that in modified rebuy, there is always an option to make or to order. That is the difference. Whereas in new buy situation, that would not be there. In modified rebuy, suppose let us say that they don't have a supplier who can do it, then Crompton Greaves has the in-house capability to develop it, which they would do it if they feel that the customer is good. But in new buy, that would not be the case. Let us say that you need to install an SAP, ERP systems in place. It is a case of new buy situations. I mean, which is very, very complex. It requires HR process to be integrated with the information technology, with the marketing interfaces and all that. Which means to say that when you're taking bigger projects, the level of complexity increases, the level of decision making increases, and that is why they say that new buying situation is more complex than any other forms of buying. Is this kind of convincing to you?
Yes, sir, but I still have like that question. See, in modified rebuy, you don't really have to invest a lot of money. So if
Okay.
let's say that you have to buy, for example, if you take the example in the pictures given, an airline, if you have to buy like 2 or 3 or 4 airlines, it will cost you load of money, much more than it would to buy a small truck, right?
Correct.
Even if you have to modify it, so you will be more like careful with your purchase when it comes to an airline. So I think that would be more complicated versus
Yes. Yeah. No, your point is correct. I mean, don't go by the figure which I have kind of put that. Modified rebuy, by that, what I wanted to say is the organization should require, the customer should require smaller modifications. The organization would require kind of smaller modifications, which the existing service provider is able to do. Whereas in new task buying, that is not possible by the organization per se. For example, let us say that you're an organization and you're saying that I want this, all these configurations. Does it come into the category of modified rebuy or a new buy? You are saying that I want a machine with all the specifications, everything. Does it come under the category of new buy or modified rebuy?
It's modified rebuy, I think.
How is that a modified rebuy?
Because sir, if you're asking for specifications, it's definitely a modified version of what you
No.
could.
Yes, if I'm making a particular product, if I'm making a particular product and there are certain changes that I have to make to it, then it is a modified rebuy case. Understood. That is perfect. But if you want me to build a new machine altogether for you, completely new one, completely new, then what it is? Then it is a modified rebuy or a new buy?
That will be a
Rebuy.
new buy.
Yeah, at the same
That's
time, sir, a new buy would basically not be existing in the market altogether, right?
correct. It's not that it is not existing in the market. It may exist in the market. For example, if you take Isuzu Motors, Recently, I had a chat with one of their sales executives. Now they said that a customer, there was a 5-seater car which they were kind of making, and the customer wanted them to have some 7-seaters or something. Now that was a case of modified rebuy. You get the point. So from 5 they had to make to 7. So they could do it with their in-house capabilities. Now in a new buy case, he comes up with a configuration, something which they have not tried before.
Yes, exactly. So in that case,
Yes.
we're talking about not just talking about innovation, but we're also talking about a small number of products being available in the market to replicate from, or to basically achieve it from. So
Correct.
wouldn't that increase the prices even more, making it even more crucial to be careful with our purchase, because one wrong purchase will can cost us a lot of rupees, right? I mean,
Yeah, that is always the point. So for that reason, what they do in B2B is you have something called as co-creation. So so we will be giving you a quote. So suppose you ask me to modify this, or you go with a new buy, you are going to kind of tell me, you also are aware of what the pricing is going to be, correct? So in such cases, what is going to happen is that co-creation concept is there, where the customer, the organization can kind of do customization to a certain degree, to a certain extent, and beyond that they are not able to do it. So with the best available resources they'll be doing, and if they're not in a position to do that, they take help of additional service providers to build on that. So that is what they could be doing it. Yes, obviously when modified rebuy is there, the cost is high. New buy is there, the cost figure gets further higher.
so we can say that a new task buying is more complex.
New task buying is more complex. Depends again. As I told you, it depends. The answer is it depends. Sometimes your modified buy can also be complex. As I mean, as I told you, if they don't have in-house capabilities, though it is pretty simple, but there are no in-house capabilities, then what do?
I understand.
You get the point. So
Yeah.
any doubt on that?
No, all good.
Yeah. So don't go by these figures. This was just for illustration purposes. Then there is something called as reciprocity, which I told you, that you buy from suppliers who are also their customers. In some cases, this will be happening. In some cases where you buy their raw materials and you buy their finished product, something like that. You kind of see it with OEM kind of things. OEMs typically, that is original equipment manufacturer, typically have this particular practice. And what is most predominant in B2B is something called as system selling. Now, the system selling means that you buy entire package from one particular seller itself. You buy entire package from one particular. Now if it is a ERP system which you want to kind of do it, there are many people who do ERP thing. There is Accenture which does it, there is Infosys which does it, there is let us say HP which does it. So you are not going with multiple providers, you're going with one package itself, so that there is no kind of, you don't have to kind of sit and ponder at a later stage whether it was the right decision or not. So this is what we kind of mean by system selling. This is also a very important kind of concepts. So I'll give you an example, and you have to tell me. So this is the example. So there was Indonesian government. They requested bids to construct a cement factory near Jakarta. So this was in Indonesia. So American government came. So they came with the designing cement factory, hiring crews, and the finished factory was to be given to the Indonesian government. So this was the proposal of an American firm. The next was a Japanese firm. They said that we'll do all this. In addition to this, they would also use the cement to build some roads and office near the buildings. The cost of the Japanese firm was more than that of the American firm. If you are the decision maker, to whom you would have given the contract? Read this and tell me, if you are the decision maker, you would have given the contract to whom and why?
So there are two ways to approach it. Number one is where if we give it to the Japanese firm, we are basically looking to get one particular partner to deal with and get it over with, right?
Yes.
Which might include lesser cost compared to hiring a third party to include the services that the Japanese firm.
No. This thing was to construct only a cement factory. See, you see the problem. The problem was to construct a cement factory. Now both the firms were constructing the cement factory, but what the Japanese firms was doing was additional. Just look at that, the additional component. Now think that it is a high class customer for whom cost is not a constraint, because in B2B the focus tends to be more on value. I mean, rarely you will find customers, B2B customers who focus on money and all that. They don't go on so low prices and all that. For them, quality is what matters, because they look at a longer term. So
I would still go with the American firm, because I would want to diversify my my basically contracts with different people then, if cost is not an issue.
No, if cost was not an issue. But see, the thing is, here the Japanese firm, what it was doing was that it hired the training workers, everything, and in addition to that, it was done. So here, for this particular thing, I would go with the Japanese one. The reason was this. These are the reasons.
So what if there's a pandemic in the middle of the
See,
whole
these
contract?
are that's what I'm saying. So there are three types of things. So there is decision making under risk, there is decision making under certainty, there is decision making under uncertainty. Now, prior to the pandemic was something which came all of a sudden, correct? Pandemic was something which came all of a sudden, and most of us did not know what would happen. Now, obviously, even we don't know next month what is going to happen, whether there are flights going to be there or not there. That risk you'd always be taking, right? As of today, as it stands, you know that okay, things are better, and it is based on that you make a particular decision. So always, the point which I wanted to convey here was that whenever you make decisions in B2B, it always comes with a probability. You kind of make decisions under uncertainty, or you make decisions under risk. There is nothing called a certainty, which was exactly the point which you kind of mentioned. So whenever you make a decision, there is always a chance that okay, I gave the contract to Japanese vendor, but it might be a wrong decision also later. Whether it is right or wrong, I'll get to know towards the end. How do I get to know? It might have bombed also, this particular thing. It might not have worked, like the pandemic thing came in, and then the contract was given, but it did not happen in first place, and that could be one of the reasons as to why it failed as well. So systems thinking means you're buying everything from one particular service provider. So this is the thing. So so I spoke about the new buy and modified rebuy and straight rebuy. So there are 9 steps in the buying process of organization B2B, and these are the things which is there. So if it's problem recognition, yes. So
yes, they have already read these steps.
Yes, okay, fine. So this is done. So now I'll just come to something called as relationship marketing.
Dr. Ashwin, Parthiv,
yes,
I think if he has a question, we can take it right now.
Yeah, sure. Please.
Parthiv?
Yes, ma'am. Sir, first of all, good afternoon.
Yeah.
Actually, sir, you were talking about the Japanese and the American firm.
Correct.
I just wanted to contradict Paritosh on this, because obviously I think if the company can manage everything at one cost, I think just the cost would reduce at certain point. So is my thinking right on this one?
See, the thing is, as I mean, see, in management, there is no right or wrong answer. If you kind of ask me, see, what happens is that initial proposal, let us say that I was the organization which was interested in having a cement factory. And my focus initially at that point of time was only on constructing the cement factory. But then this Japanese company kind of came with things and started to upsell or cross sell. You get the point, right? Now, when you go with the plan to buy a particular laptop in a particular store, when you go there, the shopkeeper kind of shows you, look, this is the additional thing which is there. These are the kind of benefits that you get. And that point of time, you make certain calculated decision. So the thing is, if the company is, okay with spending, and if they see value in it, again, the point is seeing value. If the value is yes, then you go give it to the Japanese one. If you just want that basic cement factory setup, which you need it, then you just go with that. Then you would rate it, give it to the American one. Again, it comes at a cost, right? It is important to know there that the cost is the component here. The cost is the component here, because whatever Japanese is giving, see, I've mentioned a line there as well, that it came at an additional cost. Now the point is, as an organization, am I willing to shell out that extra money from my pocket? If the answer is yes, I would go with Japanese. If the answer is no, I would give it to an American. Is it okay?
So may I also attempt to respond once?
Yeah.
That's
yes.
all right. Okay, so Parthiv, I appreciate your point, but tell me this: would you rather give the task of hiring someone to a company which specializes in cementing, or would you rather take that cost and give it to a different firm who specializes in basically hiring workers? So on that point is why I believe that value for cost, as well as the amount of cost that would go into hiring the Japanese firm, would basically be higher compared to going with the American firm and then going for a third party HR service provider.
See, Paritosh, you are right at this point.
Parthiv and Paritosh will continue with this discussion in the classroom.
I think it's a good discussion, because
Dr. Ashwin, but I want you to cover a few points for buyer-seller relationship also. Okay. Right, Parthiv? We'll continue. Okay?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah. So buyer-supplier relationship, see, there are many things in buyer-supplier relationship. My thesis is on this. So I can speak at length, but I'll just give you a brief about buyer-supplier relationship. So buyer-supplier relationship means establishing, developing, maintaining, and at the same time, terminating those customers who are not profitable. So that is all about customer relationship management. So earlier, if you read the definition of customer relationship management, it said about establishing, developing, and maintaining relationship. Now, the latest definition, which is given by the American Marketing Association by Robert Palmatier, you just browse Robert Palmatier in Google. He's the person who works on relationship marketing. If you just want to read that beautiful book of 180 pages, and you will love it. So he says that it is establishing, developing, maintaining, and at the same time terminating the customers who are not profitable. That is very, very important. Every business will have customers who are not profitable. Correct. So that is what it is there. Now, any business will have three types of exchanges. One is transactional exchange. What is transactional exchange? It is an arm's length kind of relationship wherein you just buy one time and you don't bother at all. I just go makes a single buy and I don't bother to buy it again. There is collaborative exchange. Collaborative exchange means there is complete collaboration and integration of supplier with the channel partner, which means to say that the customer shares complete information with the service provider. The service provider shares every information with the customer. And in most of the B2B cases, in 90%, it is a collaborative kind of exchange. Now, a small quiz. Availability of alternatives, where it is more transactional or collaborative? Where do you have more alternatives, in a transactional relationship or a collaborative relationship? Why do people go into a transactional relationship? Now, let us say that there are two businesses. Now, if you are a business, when do you get into a transactional relationship? When do you get into a collaborative relationship? If you are available alternatives matlab options. If your options are more, would you go for a transactional or would you go for a collaborative one?
Transactional, sir.
Correct, exactly. So if you have more number of alternatives, you will definitely go into transactional relationship because you don't see a point in being in collaborative relationship. But if you are having only fewer kind of suppliers or customers or service providers, then you go into a collaborative kind of relationship. So this again is from a research paper, which is Journal of Marketing Research. I'll share this kind of slides. Now there is something called as value-added relationship, which I said, which comes in between these two. Now transactional means arm's length relationship. You buy one time, you went. Collaborative exchange means you are stitched together like one entity. It looks like, though you both are separate firms, you look like you're like gelled together. The third thing is value added exchange. Now value added exchange means you are not only attracting customers, you're keeping them by providing additional services, you're providing bespoke services, and you kind of give incentives to promote repeat business. I would like to ask a question here and engage in a discussion. Is giving financial incentives a good thing to retain customers? Should an organization give financial incentives and retain customers?
Yes.
Yes. Answer is no. Why is it yes? Now, Paritosh, you tell me why the answer is yes.
Because
if you give financial thing, the customer will stick to you as long. He will use pressure tactics. He'll always ask you for more and more and more discount. So what happens to your profit margin? Your profit margin would come down gradually.
But sir, at the same time,
yes.
at the same time, acquiring a customer has been seen to be more expensive compared to retaining a customer. So those discounts wouldn't be as costly.
It is not the thing. See, the thing is, if you kind of always tell a customer that I'm giving you discounts, his expectations of discount would always be there. Now I'll give you an example, a very simple example. I go for long distance cycling, and I bought a cycle. I brought a hybrid cycle which was around 27,000 rupees way back in 2017. And then servicing, he said first service aapko free mil jayega, and I was very happy. Second time when I went for servicing, he showed me two things. He said a normal service 600 rupees only service and spares extra. Second one, he started building on it. You get this normal service. In addition to that, we strip all the parts of the cycle, we dip it in oil, we do an X-ray testing, this, that, and your cycle is like a completely new piece. Now you get the point, right? He's attaching those stacks to me. Now you tell me, and then I asked him, okay, are you going to give me any discounts on this? Do you think he'll kind of give you a discount to this thing? He said that no, absolutely, I'm not going to give you anything on this. Then I asked him why. I said, I've been coming to you every time. He said, look, the margin, this is what the margin is. And he exactly knew that there was nobody who could provide the kind of service he could provide. Okay. Now what happens if he gives me a discount, he gives me 300, 400 discount just to get me, and then I would be anyways giving it to him. Second time when I go, I again ask for it. Now he knows that, okay, one expectation is set. He knows that. So these people, what they do is when they sell products, they give discounts. You look at Aquaguard. Aquaguard ka product is very sasta. It is around 10,000 rupees. But if you have got an Aquaguard or a Kent RO in your home, servicing is where people are charging price premium for you. So my cycle, which was 27,000 rupees, do you believe it or not, in 4 years for servicing I paid 38,000. So my cycle cost has gone to 65,000 now. You see the point. So this is how marketers are cleverly paying. They charge you less for the product, they increase for the service. The same is the case with printer. If you look at the printer ka cost bahut sasta hai, but the ribbon that you put, they charge you premium on that.
Cartridges are costly.
Yes. So they add percentage. That is how they are going to do it. So
that is a type. That is a type of pricing technique, na?
Yes.
Gillette razor is cheaper, but the blade is costlier.
Blade
so,
is expensive.
But once you buy that Gillette razor, you will have to buy those blades.
Now the thing is, what Gillette did was, Gillette did one more master stroke. Gillette had something called as Presto earlier, which was around 15-20 rupees. And then they knew that this Presto razor could not be replaced. They came up with something called Gillette Guard. Okay, which is like they introduced the product. They said that the razor is 10 rupees, uska blade 5 rupees. Now you see the product cost. Now the razor is 22 rupees. The blade is costing around 12 rupees. You see how they've done. You look at the geo mechanism, what they've done to enter into the market. They kept a low price. Answering Paritosh's question, to enter the market, they kept a very, very low price. Everybody migrated. They provided you excellent services. Now they have increased the price by 25%. Paritosh, should you want to leave Jio and go? Answer could be yes or no. But if you ask me, I would not want to leave because I'm happy with the services they are providing. I also have a Vodafone with me, and Vodafone is having a lot of interruptions. Now it is up to me as to how I see value. But if Jio is keeping the same price tag, thinking customers will be with them, do you think it will work out? Answer is no. So that is where business models, so circular economy, concepts of circular economy, business models, all these are kind of changing every day. Now, customer profitability is very, very important. High cost to serve customers, low cost to serve customers are there. So you need to measure customer profitably. So if you look at this particular graph, for the organizations, if they are in this green patch, they're always profitable. And if they are in this white patch, they're always this thing. So if the organizations, so today one article has kind of come, I was reading a HBR article just minutes before my presentation at around 4 o'clock, which kind of said that don't give anything free to your customers, you charge them. And I would like to share that article with you by Stephen Mitchell. He says that, everything comes at a price. Everything is something which comes at a price. If you keep say that, okay, it is going to be free for you, customers will be very, I'll give you another example, Cult Fit, Cure Fit, which is there. So what they did is that first 2 sessions they gave free for every customer. They said that you come, you see our gym and all that, you refer, you get 6 months extension. And they started that plan and it went for 1 month. After 1 month, they said that our plan, which we told, is now no longer valid because they already got the customers they wanted. They have already so the organization, once they get to know that, okay, we have already got the customers we want, they would no longer want to reduce the margin, because if they reduce the margin for one customer, they'll have to do it for all the customers. So they would want to maintain this uniformity. Okay. So what are the implications of this? Convert unprofitable to profitable ones. Answering Paritosh's question, if the customer is wanting only incentives, you make sure that you don't give him incentives. Give him incentives, but increase the price. You know what 50% discount is in apparels? They increase your price and then give you 50%. Go and check the price some other time. So what this Arrow, Zara and all they do is they increase the price again by 3,000 and then give you 50%. You are actually not realizing that you are actually buying it at a similar price. Then secondly, you fire those who are not profitable. This is the most important thing in CRM, that if the customer is unprofitable, if it's adding to your losses, just remove them and you just retain the profitable customers. There are some examples, but I think there is paucity of time as well. So customer relationship is...
If we could wind up in 5 minutes, it will be great, Ashwin.
So customer relationship is all about acquiring the right customers, crafting the right value proposition, designing the best process, motivating the employees, and then retaining the customer. So this with one last slide, I would kind of end this. Now this is the selling firm, this is the buying firm. Now these three are the contact points. It is not to be scaled, it could be many. It is not to be scaled, it could be many people. Now the relationship breadth means nature of ties you have with the exchange partner. What it means to say. Now, for example, I know people in MET University, but how well do I know people in MET University matters, right? See, I might be knowing people in MET University, but how well I know them, it matters in negotiation skills, correct? So I can negotiate if I'm having a very strong. So that is very important. So it is not about knowing people. You should have the ties. So this is breadth, is the number of ties. So let us say 3 people in this. Now, of those 3 people, what is the quality of what is the nature of the bond, nature of the ties you are having with that people? Just knowing is not enough. That is the tie low, is the tie medium, is the tie weak. If the ties are very strong, then I can put it in a very clever way. If the relationships bonding is very, very strong, then I can say that, yeah, boss, do this for me. No, why don't you give this to me earlier? Why don't you reduce the price slightly for me? Something like that. You can always have a say. And then there is something called as relationship strength, which is the product of breadth multiplied by the quality, which means to say that capacity of an inter-organizational relationship to withstand stress. So every relationship goes through stress. Some failure has happened. Okay, he said he's delivered and he did not deliver. But then it is the relationship which is actually providing a buffer. It is like a spring. It can extract that particular, what do you say, negative episodes for some time, and that is kind of going to save you. So that is what comes strongly for these stronger brands. So these stronger brands benefit from that. Is why you need to build relationship. It's not just to retain customers. It is to provide you a buffer against service failure. It is to ensure that your customers remain loyal to you, because if the customers defect, it is always acquiring is always difficult. Acquiring these customers is always kind of difficult. But then this factor also is very, very important. So if you're a marketer, all these things are very, very kind of important. So there is a book by Robert Palmer here. If you want, I can share you the PDF. If you have interest, you can read it, because as a researcher, I have to read all this. So then there are three kinds of program to answer Paritosh's question. Paritosh said financial bonding is to be done. I'll say no. I'll tell what you do instead of that. You invest in three types of programs. There are three types of relationship marketing: social, structural, financial. Now, what do you mean by social is, Mahindra, what they do is, for their dealers, they take them for an outing, nice resort and all. They engage them in meals and all that. They kind of have, one-to-one kind of discussion. Now, this kind of relationship is looking beyond profits, and they tend to last long. Okay, customer feels that, okay, they're treating me like a family. This is important. Try to invest things in this. Second thing, structural bonding. Now, what do you mean by structural bonding? I am making certain investments. I am making certain investments. See that, for example, my customer is there, and I'm making certain investments in his place to ensure that he can track whatever I'm doing and all that, my order processing and all that. Do such kind of investments. The third and final thing is financial bonding. Result, you give more discounts, you give more free shipping, you give extended payment terms. This will help you for the long term, but it is not something which is going to last long. A person you may give, see what happens. My father is into business, where primarily people take money and deliver. They say that we give it later, but many of them default as well. So now, after some experience, we know that whom we have to give, whom we have to trust, whom we should not trust. Financial thing is not always the right thing. It is a gamble. It may work, it may not work. But if you kind of tell a customer, start giving him incentives every time, then he will always be wanting these incentives, and then he will kind of always negotiate with you in terms of incentives than relationship. So if you're a marketer, your focus should be on developing that social and structural bonds and financial bonds. That way you can strengthen customer relationships. I think I spoke a lot. And
No, Ashwin, but it was a pleasure listening to all this. And we could have gone on and on for another 1 hour, I'm sure.
yeah, so there was so many things to this thing. Sorry, I overshot the time as well.
No problem, Ashwin. What I can do is I can just ask the students to reserve their questions.
Yeah.
And maybe I can send a list of those questions over a mail to you.
Sure.
And then they can be discussed.
Yes.
And we can do that way. And I will request Ashwin. I think you don't have my email ID, but I will definitely drop you an email tomorrow. And I would request you to please share these slides and the CRM author, the name that you are saying, that book, if it is possible.
So it is, I'll just share it with you right now. So it is, I'll share it to your mail. So just have a read of all this. See, these are the people, see, for example, what we do in PhD is we kind of work on a topic. We take a particular topic and we go completely deeper into it. We get completely immersed that, see, every answer in marketing. So there is no right or wrong. It depends on the scenario. As I told you, every decision that you take is on uncertainty. It is on probability. It may be the right decision, it may be the wrong decision. Awarding Japanese contractor may be right, may be wrong, depends on the scenario. You just use your instincts, you determine the probability, and you think that, okay, this scenario, this might work. That may be wrong as well. But if you're, that is why there are a lot of people in the organization. You don't make a decision on your own. That is why I said there are many people. There is a buying center, which means you have many people. You collectively take the opinion of all and then make a decision. That is what the difference is. That is why when you're taking a collective opinion, the probability that you will go wrong is very rare. There are cases where it has gone wrong also. But when you're taking a collective decision, we just ask them, what do you think about it? So the answers can be diverse, right? I like a particular restaurant. Doesn't mean that everybody, all of you like that restaurant, right? The answers could be diverse. Then we kind of take a call. So that's how it is.
Absolutely. In fact, Ashwin, I also have a very keen interest in CRM. My PhD topic was on customer relationship
Okay.
management.
Okay.
So I was teaching that in the previous semester also. So I found it very interesting. I don't know how much they learned, but at least I learned a lot of things from you.
For them it would be boring as well, because when I was a student also, I used to kind of doze off whenever presentations were given. But when I started doing my PhD, I realized how important it is to attend guest lectures, because you get that viewpoint from a researcher, from a practitioner, academician, which kind of helps you out. So if
Yes.
in the interview they ask you if we have to do financial bonding, answer is no. Tell them that don't do financial bonding. It is wrong. You may get customers now, long term you're not going to get them. It's going to be a huge loss for you. They'll
Yes.
just attack you on discounts, discount. How long are you going to give discounts? Your margin will come down always.
Yes, and in fact, that income tax portal glitch we have been reading around in the newspaper, but we never correlated to that B2B
Yes.
class.
Now you get the point. It is a B2B
Yes,
kind, and it is called as a service failure and recovery. Now, what is
service
service
failure.
failure? The glitch was the service failure. What was the recovery? Even Salil Parekh, Infosys head, he came. He said yes. He said we are going to solve this. They solved the particular problem, and in 2 months, within 20 days, it was live. Now that is recovery. For every failure, there has to be a recovery. If there is a failure and you don't, what do you say? You don't recover them. That is called as double deviation. It is called as double deviation. Then customers will leave. That means to say that not only government of India will kick them out, it is an indication to other people also in the surrounding ecosystem that don't buy Infosys services. That is why failure of that magnitude will have long-term repercussions.
Absolutely,
That is why
absolutely.
rectifying it is very, very important. Okay,
Yes,
so
yes.
that's how it is.
Okay, okay. Oh, so that has been a great discussion, Ashwin. I would definitely, from the core of my heart, I am saying this. Once you are settled down in your new job, please come to us at least once in 6 months and deliver a session. It's been, it's been pleasure to listen to you as a teacher, and I am sure my students would echo my feelings with you, with me. And Ashwin, I would just like to close this session and thank you so much. We'll connect through LinkedIn. Students, you can also connect to Ashwin sir through LinkedIn. Find out a solution to your problems, to a number of queries. And thank you so much, Ashwin. All the best for your future.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, students, for your patient hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Bye.